All right, guys, welcome back. So last module we talked about how to find agents, find real estate deals. Ooh, I'm breaking Mitch's blinds here. How to find deals through agents. First thing I do want to talk about in this next modular is a little bit more a higher definition, because with agents you don't necessarily have to worry about what the definition of motivated seller is, right? But I wanted to make sure that we're clear on what is a motivated seller. You know, it's important that we understand what they are and what we're actually looking for, because some of you may have perfect understanding, but a lot of people may not have a fully understanding. Everyone has different levels of understanding. So a motivated seller is a property owner who will meet at least one of the following conditions: willing to sell the property at a very favorable price, willing to sell the property at very favorable terms. This includes things like money down, 0% interest, financing, etc. Basically, what that means that someone that needs to sell their home fast. So these are people that are gone through some sort of issues. And right now, depending on when you're watching this, like right now we're recording in 2020. So if you're watching this from the future, you understand how interesting this time of the world is. So 2020, there's a lot of people that are going through, they lost their jobs. And so people don't have enough money to pay for their mortgage. And the thing is, though, even after, because there's mortgage forbearance, but that's not going to be forever. So a lot of people are going to be going through foreclosures, bankruptcies. It's just got kicked down the road. The problems have not gone away. It just got kicked down the road. That's all that forbearance has ever done. So forbearance means, if you guys don't know, that there's a program right now in 2020 where the banks can't foreclose on the properties. But once they release that, the banks can call whatever the payments they missed due at that time. So they either have to refinance, so hopefully their credit's good enough, or make up all the payments right then and there. And that's when they're going to start foreclosing. So when the forbearance happens, that's a great opportunity for us to be able to help people. So, and also we're going to go through lots of different ways how to find these motivated sellers. But effectively, people that just need to sell their home quickly, fast, and ready to go as fast as they possibly can, right? All right, guys. So next, we're going to talk about the courthouse. This is some good stuff right here. I'm really excited to talk about the courthouse. When I say I'm going to courthouse to make money, people look at me really funny. But the courthouse is a phenomenal place to find money, find deals, I should say. In fact, this is where, when I say I generate over 2,000 leads a month here in Utah, that's exactly where I get them from. I get them from the courthouse. And so from the courthouse, you're going to be finding probates, tax liens, evictions. Now, I understand evictions, like, wait a minute, I'm not renting, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? Divorces, bankruptcy, foreclosures, meth condemned, which that is part of the health department, which we'll talk about here in a second. All right, guys. So all of this and more are all in the courthouse. And some states a little bit different. I think like California, they actually have their own separate division for divorces. I've learned that not because I got divorced, but for finding liens over there in California. So you're gonna have to play around a little bit to kind of find exactly where, if your state's a little bit different, that's where you want to go. So this is how I find my 2,000 leads a month, right? So we're gonna kind of go over these individually, and I'll kind of go over my story, my first deal, how I found in the courthouse, my whole stumbling and mumbling around until I found what I needed to find. And so we're talking about that here in a second. So let's go over probates first. So probates, what are probates? So probates refers to the general administering of the deceased person's will or the state of the deceased person without a will. So even if someone has, let's say someone passes away, right? Even if they have a will, they still have to go through a probate process, which means the petitioner, so let's just say the state, the person that's over the state, so like the son or daughter, whoever, uncle, whatever, they have to, in order for them to turn over that person's assets to that person's name. So let's just say my dad passes away. If my dad passes away, heaven forbid, he's still alive, but let's just say if that does happen, if I am the executor of the will and the person that's in charge, I will petition the courts to change his assets over to my name or to my trust or to my family's name or whatever we decide, right? And so the courts have to determine, okay, this person has passed away, and if there is a will, that we're following the will, and that we're doing that's according to what is fair and just. So if my brothers and sisters are like disagreeing, like actually we should get a higher portion of it, or whatever, or this house should be mine, whatever it may be, the judge kind of sorts that stuff out to whatever he or she sees fit. So that's what a probate is, someone that passes away. And this is a great opportunity for us, because a lot of times, the vast majority of these people, the heirs, they don't necessarily, I want you to think just for a second, okay? When you're looking at your old person's home, your grandma's home, for example, look around, put yourself in that home right now, and kind of walk around mentally, and you see that it has old carpet. The kitchen hasn't been updated since the 70s. The bathrooms are, even though they look nice, it's still outdated, right? And so these are the type of houses we're buying. So they may not necessarily be in terrible condition a lot of the times, but in order to get the highest value, they just need to be updated, right? Or they could just be not updated and also in horrible condition. I've dealt with probates where we've had to deal with hoarders, where there was piles and piles of garbage everywhere. In fact, there's a deal that I'm working on right now that's through a probate case. And this lady, we filled up 2 dumpsters full of just trash. So it's been full of trash as far as all that. That's a lot of junk that she was collecting over the years. And so she passed away. We had to deal with that. So we had to pull 2 full dumpsters full of that stuff. And so that's the type of state that these heirs are walking into. And so a lot of times it's easier for them just to let's we understand we're going to get a discount property, or we understand that we're going to sell a discount price because we don't want to deal with putting it on the market, trying to fix everything up. Because a lot of times these agents, a lot of the normal agents, if it won't pass FHA financing, they won't even touch it. So if a property needs repairs, they're like, no, I can't list it for you. Find a different agent. I've literally seen it. I know lots of agents won't even touch properties like that because it's hard for them to sell it other than sell it to investors like us. So it's a great opportunity for us to help our people that are out and about, right? Okay, and it can take the time frame, just so you guys know, as you're pulling this stuff up, it can take anywhere from 4 weeks to a year or even longer, depending. So if there's a lot of contention within the family, a lot of disputes, it can take, I've seen cases where, bear with me one second, guys, get a little sip. I'm so sorry, guys. Hopefully they'll edit that out. But I've seen cases where it's took over a year to get the probate case actually finalized. But on average, using this example of the deal I doing just recently, the probate case, I actually got a hold of this person before they even filed for probate. It was one of my bird dogs. They found this property. I talked to the person as they were cleaning everything out, and we want to sell the property. We had we put under contract subject to getting the probate case finalized, and we're taking it right around 5 weeks for this whole thing to happen because there's not any really dispute between the heirs. It's really just the brother, and that's it. And so it's a pretty much cut and dry case. And so they took a little more time to get death certificate to get to the courthouse. But yeah, we'll be closing on it in a week and a half of this particular probate case. So that kind of gives you an idea as far as the time frame goes of a probate case and how long that actually takes. And when you do go look up the court records, you want to contact the petitioner, whatever words. I can't say words. Anyway, I don't have to say words to buy contracts, to buy property, so I'm okay. So you're contacting the petitioner. These are the people that are petitioning the case of the probate, right? So as you're looking through the files and you want to be able to contact these people, right? And get to the courthouse yourself. So there's lots of ways to go online to the courthouse and pull up this information. And we will go over a little bit of that information here as well here in a minute. I'll show you an example of how to do it here in Utah. And so I'll give you a good example, and then you can kind of have an idea as far as to go in your home state and pull this up and look this up yourself, which we'll do here in just a jiffy. But if you can actually go to the courthouse yourself, I highly recommend it because you're able to talk to the people behind the counter. Now, again, with COVID-19, and maybe there may be restrictions, so maybe a little more difficult than others, but it's definitely there. So I want to tell you guys about my first flip. Okay, so this is my first deal as flipping. You know, I basically through Mitch's coaching and whatnot, kind of showed me how to do this stuff, and so I was really excited. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really have someone to hold my hand through the whole process. I kind of just figured things out as I went. And so I was like, okay, so go to the courthouse. Okay, great. And so I went to the courthouse, and I was like, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I just went and I talked to the lady like, hey, I'm trying to look up probate cases. How do I look that up? And the lady's like, well, I mean, you got to go to this window over there. Like, okay. And I went over there, and the lady's like, we don't do probates here. You got to go to the courthouse. So I went to the wrong building. I went to the wrong building. I felt like an idiot. But that's kind of what I was saying in the first modular words. The first chapter, right? That you're not gonna be perfect at this, okay, when you first start, and that's okay. It's okay to fail, and you have to acknowledge that you will fail. That when you go there the first time, or when you do anything, you may seem or may act and feel funny. That's okay. Like don't worry about it. It's just gonna happen. Don't even worry about it. It's just part of the business. Okay. So you're gonna go to the courthouse yourself. So I went to the wrong building, and then I finally got to the courthouse. You know, they did the check. They make sure I didn't have any weapons on me. And then I went to like 3 different counters trying to find out like, hey, I'm just trying to fight a courthouse, man. I'm just trying to fight probate cases. And so I finally got to someone that the right counter. I talked to him like, hey, I'm just looking for. I need to pull up the probate cases in the last 30 days in this area. How do I do that? Can you show me? Can you help me, please? And I did my puppy dog eyes and the ladies showed mercy upon me. And it's actually their job to show mercy upon me, right? They're supposed to help us, and that's their job to get that information. It's public information, first of all. If you want to look up any case filings, any of that stuff, it is 100% public information. So absolutely. So I finally they actually in Tooele, where the town I live in, they actually were able to show me. They gave me the computer, like, okay, this is how you look up yourself. In other counties, I went there. They actually just printed off a sheet for me, where it was all the probate case, who was the petitioner, who passed away, what the address was, and sometimes it would even have the phone numbers on there. But we'll go over how to actually find their phone numbers, how to find their mailing address, all here in future modulars down the road. But yeah, so that's how I found this first, and then I got my list. And then I started making phone calls. I was able to look up the phone numbers again, but I'll teach you guys how to do that here in a second. I looked at the phone numbers, and it was I felt so silly calling people. I knew I was saying like, do you want to sell your house? I mean, it was just squeaky in my voice. I was mumbling, and it was just very nerve-wracking for me personally. But I got through it, and I got someone. The person that told me yes. She actually lived in California, and her uncle passed away in the town I lived in. And so when she said yes, I was actually terrified because she said yes because I didn't know what to do next. So I was terrified to get a yes, and I got a yes. But and that was a great thing. It was a great learning the whole process. It was really, really phenomenal. And so that's how I got one of my first flips was through probates. And so we're gonna go over some more information, how to pull all the information up. We'll do that here in a second. Now evictions. Evictions. Evictions are right. So why would evictions be, and this is also public information, right? So why would evictions be a great way to find deals? You don't want to rent. Why do you want to find a vacant property? That doesn't make any sense. Why would I find it? This guy wants to rent. He's trying to get cash flow, right? Evictions are gas, man. They are just gas. So I want you to put yourself in the landlord's position here for a second, okay? So they're looking like this guy right here in the green shirt. They just kicked someone out. They spent money to kick someone out. They didn't want to go by themselves. It was not. They had to get. Oh, so sorry, guys. They had to get someone to kick them out of the property, and they never leave in good condition. It's usually left in this picture like here. It's just tore up, destroyed. It doesn't look good at all. It's not in a good situation. So the landlords are in a bit of a flux. The landlords are in a flux state when they're going through eviction process. So they either have a couple options. Once they actually get someone evicted, they have to fix up the place to rent it or to sell it. Because if they want to sell it in a bad condition, like I said before, a lot of agents won't even touch it in that type of situation. If it's not FHA approved, it's not going to happen. They're not going to want to do it. So they're not going to want to do it at all. Or they can sell it to you as is. So they may or may not even know that as an option. So I really, really, really love evictions. I find a lot of my deals just talking to old landlords. And when I'm talking to landlords, it's really nice because they speak the same language. They are investors themselves. They understand about what you're trying to do. You're not trying to steal their equity. You're trying to make a deal. They understand that fixing this property has a cost to it. That there's a cost to buy the property. There's a cost to sell the property. They understand that. That is a huge, huge, huge advantage when the person you're trying to buy the property from already understands that stuff, right? So, and they are also more willing to do seller financing. So if they're doing seller, for example, I'm going to go over some scenarios, all right? So when I'm talking to a landlord, I'll ask them. And this is something you can ask them as well. So you're like, you know what? So why did you buy this property? Why did you get it in the first place? And of course their answer is going to be with a couple of different ways, but it's going to be like, oh yeah, either they lived in that property and they moved and they just held on to it and kept it as a rental because they wanted cash flow, or they bought it for the actual purpose of getting cash flow. And so I'll tell them like, okay, so you're trying to get cash flow, all right, and how much cash flow are you getting right now? Well, nothing. It's empty. How to evict the person? Oh wow, so how much is it going to cost you to make repairs? Oh yeah, it's going to cost me $30,000 to get it rent ready again. Oh wow, so how much are you losing every single month in your mortgage? Oh yeah, I'm paying $1,000 a month in mortgage. Like, oh geez, and like you're being sympathetic the whole time. Like, oh wow, so you mean to tell me that you have to spend $30,000 on this property? You're going to lose. It's going to take you 6 months to fix this to get it where it needs to be, or whatever time frame that they say. So you're going to be losing another another 10 grand just on your mortgage payments without having any rents in there. And then you have to wait a month or two for actually fill the place. So you'll be losing close to $45,000 until this thing actually gets rent ready. Like, oh yeah, that's right. That does. Yeah. Like, oh man, that sucks. I feel for you. Yeah. And you kind of relate and kind of be there for like, oh yeah, that would suck. And so when you kind of math it out for him, it's just like, oh man, that's brutal. Then you look like this guy. Like this is their face that they're giving you. Like, oh man, that's right. That does suck. And so when you math it out for him, like, how would you be open to conversation? I always like to start off like getting that small yes. It's nice. Would you be open to conversation of how you can actually get your cash flow and not have to worry about spending that $45,000 in rehab and paying your mortgage payments for the next 6 months? Or ever have to deal with an eviction again, or ever have to deal with finding a tenant and have to worry about it? Well, of course, any person that's any brains in their head, you're like, well, yeah, I'm open to a conversation like that, of course. Like, how would you like if I can give you the cash flow and you don't have to worry about this stuff? Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy your property from you, and I'm going to make sure that my payments are big enough to pay for your mortgage and enough so you have your cash flow that you need to make it worth for you. So now suddenly, this landlord is going to get the cash flow that they originally wanted, and then you get a property with seller financing, and potentially long-term property with seller financing. If you plan to flip it, to say we'll just do it for 1 year. We're going to pay this for 1 year, and then we're going to resell it or whatever your plan is. If you're going to keep it as a rental, yeah, man, for the next 30 years, I'm going to give you cash flow for the next 30 years. That's a phenomenal deal for that landlord. They don't have to worry about the tenants. They don't have to worry about any of the stuff. You can come in and save them and get seller financing. And a lot of times, with this type of scenario, like, it's going to take me a couple months to get this going. So how about we push the payments? The payments won't start until for 6 months. Does that sound fair? Because they understand, and I've done this multiple times, where I've gotten deals where I don't have to make any payments on seller financing for 6 months or even 2 years. I haven't got one for 2 years. It's amazing. Where they don't have to make any payments on it at all. It's all about, you get what you ask. And they could say no. If they say no, it's fine. You just do it either way. But yeah, so you use the condition of the property as like even getting deferred payments effectively for the next 6 months, and now you have plenty of time to rehab the property. And then if you get someone in there in 3 months, you get 100% of the rent for the next 3 months, and then you start paying off this guy, paying off the seller. So it's phenomenal. So what I like to do, there's a couple different ways to kind of really get a contact. I like to contact people that are evicting people that don't own the property in an LLC. So LLC is a company, right? So most people, you always want it, which I'm sure if you watch the class with Cody Backus that Mitch has, you're going to see that you should, if you're going to have a rental, you want to buy it in an LLC, in a company, to limit your risk. If someone owns a property in their own name, they're probably not as educated, and so they may not know all the options. So you can be the one to educate them a little bit. Like, they're going to know a lot more than the average Joe, but you can come in and they're going to be most likely, it's not a business for them. If they own the property in their own name, it's not their business, right? And so now they really have this headache that they're dealing with, and they don't really want to deal with it anymore. So it's all about relieving their headaches, and they understand you're buying at a discount because it makes sense, because it needs lots of work. Okay, so so what I like to do is go to the eviction court and make friends. Did you know most courts, they do their evictions on the same day a week, every week, or every other week, depending how big the city is, or every other day, depending what it is. So here's what I recommend. Most courts in most cities, you can actually attend the eviction courts, the eviction hearings. So go to the courthouse, and find out when does the eviction courts actually happen? When do the judge actually sees the cases? When does it all happen? And you can go there and start making friends. So you can watch, you can see people, see them coming in and out, hear their situations, and when all's said and done, as they're leaving on the doors, on the steps, like, hey, Billy Job, I was just there, man. Yeah, sounds like you're having a hard time with this Joe Blow. I totally destroyed your place. I feel for you. And start a conversation that way. Having a conversation face to face with someone is huge. So guys, this right here, this would be on the money time scale. This would be a 1. So this is going to take more time, but not going to cost you any money to do. Right? So if you don't have a lot of money to put into marketing or anything like that, all of this stuff here that we're talking about in this module right here is going to be a number 1, right? Other than looking up phone numbers, but we're going to teach you later on how to do that for free. So that's going to be phenomenal. So go to the courthouse, making friends, and actually you can look up this up typically online, or the same place where you go to look at the probate cases, you can actually pull up the eviction. Like, I need to can I look at the eviction records in the last 30 days? And then they'll pull it for you, and then you can look it up, right? Either go to the person or go online. You may have to pay a fee online, but we'll show you how to do it here in Utah, just to give you guys an idea, right? So let's help. This guy has an issue. Let's solve it. All right, and that's the mindset we need to be in. Now the rest. Tax liens. Tax liens are typically free and clear. I want you to kind of put this in thought press here. So what is a tax lien? That's when someone doesn't pay their property taxes, right? For the most part, it's property taxes. We don't pay the property taxes, and so the courts will put a tax lien on that property. So that's good for a couple reasons for us. One, someone's in a situation where they're not able to pay their taxes. All right, so whether they lost a job or whatever, and they have the property free and clear. Because if you're paying a mortgage, part of that mortgage payment is your taxes. So 90% of the time, if someone has a tax lien, that property is free and clear. So we have someone that doesn't have a mortgage on the property. They're in a tough situation. And so you can offer, like, hey, let me pay off your tax. Let me buy this property from you. And, would you be willing to do, like, me buying this property in payments? So this is another way where someone, at very least, this person that's in tax lien has the potential of losing his property because of a couple of $1,000s in taxes. Losing a property for a couple of $1,000s is not a good place to be in. Depending on where you're at, could be tens of thousands of dollars, but still, regardless. But they'd be more willing to work with you to save their hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity just so they don't lose their property. Right? You're finding a property, and you're finding a motivated seller, fixing their problem. Divorces. Okay, so divorces, it's and I've dealt with divorces. Sometimes I feel like I'm like a marriage counselor whenever I talk to these people, because divorces is a challenge, right? So these are people in a bad situation. Hopefully none of you guys have gone through that, but some of you have, and so you understand the type of situation, or at very least everyone knows someone that has gone through a divorce. So a lot of times it's not a good situation, especially if they're living in the same home. They need to get rid of that as soon as possible. They're in a situation where they hate each other. At the very least, they don't want to see each other anymore, and now they have these joint assets that they need to get rid of. And so with divorces, a lot of times you can get something called spite money. So spite money is what I call. So a lot of times when you're divorces, depending on the divorce decree and how it's kind of split up, it is like whatever the equity is, they split between each other, right? Whatever the percentage is, maybe it goes all to the wife, maybe it goes to the husband, or if you want to, probably goes to either all the wife or kind of split in between. I've been in situations where the spite between the two people, were so great that the person that the divorcee wanted to sell the properties at the price of the mortgage because they didn't want to have the spouse to get any money. They were screwing themselves to screw the other person. So if they didn't get any money, that means that the wife wouldn't get, or the ex-wife wouldn't get any money, and vice versa. And they were so that was like that's what they wanted. They didn't want their ex to get that much money. So I was more than happy to oblige to help them in that particular situation. So that's phenomenal. It's great. It is. It's a great opportunity to help people to get what they want. And even if it's not zero, but enough for them to, $5,000 each or whatever it may be, right? You're just buying just above what their mortgage is, and so that they can walk away from the properties. And the thing is, when you do look up for divorces, you always want to make sure that they own real estate. That is something with the, probates too as well. You want to make sure that person actually owned real estate, which is important. So if they get divorced and they're renting an apartment, there's not much we can do about it. So you want to make sure check with the county records to see if the couple actually owned real estate. Okay, so divorce is a great way. Get that spite money, people. I mean, you can pull up the divorce records online. You can go like the same scenario. So I want to pull up all the divorces in the last 30 days that was in this county. You talk to the clerk. If you, depending on the circumstances, and even even if they can't do it, just ask them okay, where do I go to do that, or how do I do that? Can you show me online? Show me online right now, and they're obligated to help you guys, right? That's part of their job. So ask lots of questions with the clerks, because I can show you exactly, and I'm going to show you how to do it here in Utah, but every state's different. I've with my lead generation company, we done it through the entire states. So I don't have time to go through each and every single state with you guys to how to pull this information individually. So you're gonna have to do some due diligence and work and figure out how to pull this up. And the best way to do that is to go to the courthouse, ask lots of questions, be annoying. Who cares if they hate you? Obviously, you want them to be nice to them and whatnot. But if they're annoyed by all your questions you're asking, that's fine. Let them be annoyed. I mean, that's part of they're getting paid, so they'll be fine. I promise. So ask lots of questions, try to figure things out, right? Notice of defaults. So on the earlier with bankruptcies and foreclosures, you can look that up through the court records as well. However, when it gets to that point of the foreclosure being in the courthouse, if they already done the foreclosure, if they already done the bankruptcy, you're kind of at, because they have to do some notices and whatnot, you're kind of at a bad situation where it's almost a little too late. By the time you get to them, it's not going to be in time for them to kind of stop some of the stuff that's already happened. So something called notice of default. So when someone stops paying and this is very common for real estate investors to use NODs, notice of defaults list. So one way to get that, so instead of having to go to the courthouse and actually getting too old information, you can actually go to the title companies and offer value. Remember I said that in the previous modular? Offer value to the title company, like, hey, whatever, if you can, because they can pull up notice of defaults. So if a mortgage company says, hey, Billy Bob has not made their payments last 2 months, so they send out notice of default, they have to publish that in notice of default. So that's public records. So a title company can actually pull that for you. And when you go to the title company and say you're looking for a notice of default list, you can actually say, hey, you know what? I would love to get it. I would love to give you guys some more business. I'm actually planning to do a lot of flips and do multiple stuff. If you can guys give me a list of notice of default, every deal that I find from that list, I'm going to make sure I close at this title company. You know, so you're not just going asking someone for something. You're like, you know what? I'm going to bring you more business. You help me, I will bring you more business. I promise you. It's going to be that win-win scenario. You want to find that notice. You want to get them that notice of default, or get that title company to be on your side. Because, okay, if I help Jared make money, I'm going to make money. So let's help Jared make money. You know, it's really that simple. Meth. So meth is not part of the courthouse. So we're going to do some live training here. Let's see if I get to the right. Okay, here we are. So we're going to show you how to look up the... We're going to show you how to look up meth houses right here, okay?